As a young guy traveling through the streets of Hong Kong, I observed something that would permanently affect my perspective on the world. In the corner of an old temple courtyard, a solitary tree had shattered the ancient stone stairs. The temple's masters continually attempting to remove it, hoping to maintain their immaculate building. However, nature had a different lesson to impart. In our traditional schools, we also create flawless structures, forms, and procedures. We set our foundation in stone and declare, this is the way. But let me ask you something. Why do we dread the power that disrupts these flawless patterns? The early Zen masters talked about mushin, or mind without thinking. But now I'd want to talk to you about something else. The mind that develops via thought. In my own journey from Wing Chun to what I currently teach, I had to transform into that tree. I had to overcome not just physical constraints, but also the notions that had previously defined me. When I initially started challenging established ways, some people termed it disrespect. But my friend, is it disrespectful for a seed to burst through stone to reach the sun? Number, it represents the finest kind of honesty. In war, like in life, we must have the bravery to break free from our own foundations when they no longer suit our needs. This is why, when I teach today, I don't just instruct my pupils to be flowing like water. I dare them to be unstoppable, just like that tree, patient enough to grow through stone, powerful enough to break through falsehoods, and brave enough to change all they thought they knew. This is where actual power resides. In martial arts, let me explain what I notice in these new martial arts schools. Students learn forms in the same way as convicts memorize their cell wall. They fling 1,000 punches into the air, hoping that quantity would somehow translate into quality. However, the fact is that they are training their bodies while imprisoning their brains. Just recently, a young pupil approached me, happy of having mastered his methods. I have memorized every movement, he said. When I urged him to fight, his exquisite motions dissipated like smoke. Why? Because he had learnt to dance with the air rather than engaging with life. This is the major sickness in martial arts today. Teachers create cages and call them systems. They define borders and name them styles. This is the only way, they explain. This is the traditional way. But my buddy, did the early martial artists follow traditions, or did they seek their own truth? I see these pupils, these ardent young fighters, stuck in their strict rhythms. When they punch, they focus on their form rather than their opponent. When they kick, they recall their teacher's words rather than experiencing their own body. They have become statues, flawless in appearance but unable to travel their own way. You see, conventional schools have produced a horrible delusion. They teach that mastery is improving what is known rather than discovering what is conceivable. They have forgotten that martial arts arose not from repetition, but from necessity, from genuine battle, survival, and a knowledge of human nature. My journey, my path, like many others, started in the halls of traditional Wing Chun with the great master IP man. I learned how to catch, stick, and follow rather than resist. For years, I thought this was the solution, the ultimate system. I was enthusiastic, committed, and certain, just like many of you. But then life brought me to its most powerful teacher, need. When I arrived in America, something shifted. Fighting on the streets and educating these youngsters posed problems that my formal training could not solve. Different bodies, assaults, and energies each experience highlighted the limits of believing in a single reality. There was this one exquisite moment of awareness. During a battle, I found myself caught between my Wing Chun skills and what my body instinctively wanted to do. In that single second, I realized that I was fighting myself rather than my opponent. My devotion to tradition has become my biggest foe. This, my buddy, was the beginning of Jeet Kune Do, Not only a new look, but something far more important. It was emancipation from style itself. True martial arts, I understood, were about breaking free from the restraints we've built, rather than adding more of them. Like the tree bursting through the stone, we must develop past our constraints rather than just accept it. Every conventional method I had acquired evolved into a question to be answered rather than a rule to be followed. Every shape becomes an open gateway rather than a pattern to remember. This is not about disregarding traditional traditions. It is about acknowledging their genuine purpose, to lead us along our own road of emancipation. Combat. Allow me to share something true with you, not philosophy or theory, but truth discovered by sweat and conflict. I recall a 3-minute battle that taught me principles I could not have learnt in 3 years of standard training. My opponent was larger and stronger, a conventional heavyweight fighter. People expected me to utilize my Wing Chun trapping hands. It was what I knew best. But as I watched him move, I understood that sticking to any one system was going to be my doom, so I became formless. When he anticipated me to trap, I kicked. When he anticipated me to withdraw, I moved forward. Not because of a certain style, but because that was what reality required. This is what I'm teaching my pupils presently. Last week, I worked with a young guy who had received 15 years of classical instruction. He said to me, "Sifu, I know how to block in 4 different ways." So I delivered a straightforward punch, and he stood there, considering which block to employ and comprehending. So we started anew. I instructed him to stop seeing warfare as a problem to solve, and instead see it as a river to travel. 3 sessions later, he moved like himself, pure, direct, and honest rather than as a martial artist performing a part. This is what I meant by immediate application. As you listen, tighten your fist. Feel the anxiety and preparation for what you believe will happen. Now gently release it. Feel your energy flowing spontaneously. This single deed explains all you need to know about the distinction between stiff thinking and living movement. I faced guys who were trained in every manner conceivable. Do you know what caused the difference between triumph and defeat? Not the amount of techniques learned, but the capacity to be present in the midst of conflict. Respond to what is, not what you believe should be. Life, be my buddy, I urge, because what I'm about to share with you extends well beyond warfare. These ideas that I found in martial arts apply to many aspects of life. Think about your job, your relationships, and your everyday obstacles. How frequently do you become locked in habits that no longer benefit? Let me tell you about a businessman who visited me last month. He was dissatisfied with his negotiations. I've read every book on strategy, but here's the thing. He was doing what many of us, even martial artists, do. He was looking for solutions from outside rather than from inside. I informed him, in combat, when I sense tension in my opponent, I do not respond with more tension. I go with it. I divert it. He returned the next week, smiling. He had clinched the greatest transaction of his career by adjusting, comprehending, and flowing with the negotiation's natural momentum rather than pushing it. Every day is an opportunity to put these ideals into practice. Try this tomorrow morning. Instead of immediately organizing your day, spend 30 seconds observing your thoughts, breath, and energy. Don't judge or control, just observe. This is the same awareness that saved me in warfare, and it may change how you live your life. In your relationships, be like a warrior who understands when to approach and when to retreat. Understand with your children that tight rules without flexibility lead to revolt, and rigid tactics without adaptability lead to weakness. At work, see each difficulty not as a war to be fought, but as an energy to be comprehended and redirected. Remember, my buddy, that life itself is your dojo. Every discussion is an act of war. Every obstacle is a chance to overcome your own limits. The great master is not the one who has learned to struggle, but the one who has learned to embrace life without resisting its natural flow. Challenge. Remember the tree we spoke about, my friend, who is busting through the concrete? Look around you now. Where's your concrete? What frameworks have you created around your intellect, potential, and dreams? Here's my challenge to you. Beginning tomorrow, become aware of your tendencies. When you notice yourself saying this is the only way, or this is how it's always been done, pause. Feel the reluctance, the hesitancy. This is your concrete, but you contain the same irresistible power of expansion. Begin small. Each morning, rethink something you've always taken for granted. Every day, try out a fresh approach to an old issue. Each moment, ask yourself, am I breaking through this barrier, or am I allowing it to restrict me? You see, a tree does not burst through stone in one day. It expands steadily, calmly, and unstoppably. This is also your path, not in enormous leaps, but in quiet, deliberate moments of choosing progress over comfort, truth over tradition, discovery over acceptance. Remember this, my friend. The toughest barriers are not those surrounding you, but those inside. If you break past them, no external obstacle can keep you from being who you want to be. This is more than simply a philosophy. It is a call to genuinely live. Now, go, grow, break through.